In our last class, we have studied about the cell in details. Similar to that, it is equally interesting to know how the body cells of a plant or of an animal acquire a variety of shape and structure to perform specific function. They do so in a group. Now the question is, what are these groups? They are our tissue or the tissue system. So, tissues are a group of cells performing similar kind of function. I repeat, tissues are a group of cells performing similar kind of function. In today's class, we will learn about the plant and the animal tissue in details. Now let us learn about the plant tissue. Plant tissues are basically of two types, namely the meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. I repeat, plant tissues are basically of two types, the meristematic tissue and the permanent tissue. We'll first learn about the meristematic tissue. Where is it found? This is the first question. So we'll first know about its location. Meristematic tissue is found at all growing tips of a plant. I repeat, meristematic tissue is found at all growing points of a plant. Now the question is, what are these growing points? The growing points of a plant are the tips of roots, stems and branches. They are also found between the bark of wood of trees. And what are its characteristics? The characteristic of meristematic tissues are the cells are small, the cells are cubical in shape, the cell wall are thin, nuclei is large, vacuoles almost absent, and the intercellular space is almost absent, making the cells tightly packed. So plant tissues are of two types, meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Meristematic tissues are found at the growing points of a plant, like the tips of root, stem and branches, also found between the bark and stem, and their characteristic includes they are small, they are cubical, cell wall are thin, nuclei are large, vacuoles almost absent, and the cells are tightly packed with no intercellular space in between. Now see, meristematic tissues can be classified into two categories, namely apical or terminal and cambium. I repeat, meristematic tissues can be classified into two categories, apical or terminal and cambium. See, here we will be more precise on their location. Apical tissue, they are located near the tips of roots, stem and also in growing young leaves and also on the tips of axillary buds. I repeat, apical tissues are located near the tips of roots and stem, also in the growing young leaves and on the tips of axillary buds. Whereas cambium is situated below the bark and is responsible for increase in the diameter of the stem. See, you can see both apical and cambium are very much present on the growing tips, like what you have studied when I taught you about the meristematic tissue, that meristematic tissues are found in the growing tips of a plant. Again, when we are dividing the meristematic tissue into its two types, namely apical or terminal and cambium, we are being more precise on their location. So I repeat, apical tissues are located near the tips of roots and stem, also in the growing young leaves near the tips of stem and also on the tips of the axillary buds. Cambium is situated below the bark and what is its function? It is responsible for the increase in the diameter of the stem. So now you know that meristematic tissues are found on the growing tips and there are of two types, apical tissue and cambium. Now we will learn about the next type of tissue. It is the permanent tissue. Now what are permanent tissues? Permanent tissues are made up of cells which have lost their ability to multiply. They cannot multiply anymore. They take a permanent shape to perform some permanent function, and they may be living or dead. I repeat, permanent tissues are made up of cells which have lost their ability to multiply. They take a permanent shape to perform some permanent functions, and they may be living or dead. So based on their function, they are of three types. They are the protective tissue, supporting tissue, and conducting tissue. I repeat, based on the function the permanent tissues perform, they are of three types: the protective tissue, supporting tissue, and conducting. Now we will come to protective tissue. Protective tissue consists of cells with thick walls. These are found on the surface of roots, stem, and leaves. I repeat, protective tissue consists of cells with thick walls, and they are found on the surface of roots, stem, and leaves. For example, epidermis of leaf, the upper surface of the leaf. Next, we'll come to the supporting tissues. Supporting tissues are basically of several types. You have a wide range of supporting tissue. We will discuss the three most important ones. They include the parenchyma tissue, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. I repeat, supporting tissues are again of three types. We will focus on the most important ones, which includes these three. They are parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Now, what are parenchyma tissues? Parenchyma tissues are a type of supporting tissues, and they are composed of large thin-walled cells which are usually with a single large vacuole. I repeat, parenchyma are composed of large thin-walled cells usually with a single large vacuole. They are found in soft parts of the plant. Now, what are the soft parts of a plant? They include the cortex. Cortex means the outer region, and pith. Pith is the central region of roots and stem. So we find parenchyma tissues in the soft parts of the plant, which includes the cortex and pith of the roots and stem of a plant. And their function involves they store food and provide temporary support to the plant. I repeat, parenchyma tissues provide strength, temporary support to the plant, and they help in storing food. Now we will come to collenchyma. See, collenchyma is a little different term, but it is very easy to understand. How will we do that? We'll break the word into two. See, collenchyma. Collen means glue, and chyma means the living tissue. Now, let us look into its characteristic. Collenchyma are made up of parenchymatous cells. That means they are formed from the parenchyma cell. I repeat, collenchyma are made up of parenchymatous cells which are elongated and are thick at the corners. Now, where are they found? Their location? They are found in the leaf stalk and below the epidermis of stems. I repeat, collenchyma are found in the leaf stalk and below the epidermis of stem. What are its function? The function of collenchyma cell or collenchyma tissue are they help to support the parts of a plant. So, function of collenchyma tissue is they help to support the parts of a plant. Next is the sclerenchyma tissue. We'll do the same. We'll break the term into two words. See, sclerenchyma. The first part is scleros, deriving it from scleren. Scleros means hard, and chyma again means a living tissue. So, from the word itself, you can now understand they are hard tissues. Now, let us look into its characteristic. Sclerenchyma tissue is composed of long, narrow and thick cells. I repeat, sclerenchyma tissues are composed of long, narrow and thick cells which have become dead. What are its functions? They provide strength to plant parts. I repeat, the function of sclerenchyma tissue is they provide strength to the plant parts. Now we will come to the last part, that is the conducting tissues. See, conducting tissues are also called vascular tissues. I repeat, conducting tissues are also called vascular tissue. What are its functions? They provide